Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ontario Cryptids. If you've been enjoying my content, why not take a quick second to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. That way you'll never miss out on the latest episode and you'll be joining a community of like-minded individuals who share your interests. Let's keep this journey going together. Thank you for your support. If you have an encounter story that you would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story with like-minded people. Now sit back and relax as we begin with today's episode. This first one takes place in the fall of 1970. We're going to Canadian County, Oklahoma, and the nearest town is Reno. A friend and I went coon hunting along the banks of the North Canadian River, just north of Reno, Oklahoma, in the fall of 1970. We parked just east of the Foreman Road Bridge along the South River bank. This dirt trail was between a field and a river. People would come and go there to dump trash. There was a full moon and some snow on the ground. It was about 2 a.m. when we decided to head home. We were sitting in the vehicles drinking some coffee, trying to warm up, when I spotted a skunk walking towards our car. I got out of the car and was taking aim when the hair in the back of my neck started to stand straight up. It felt like something was not right. I looked over to my right shoulder towards the bank of the river and I saw a large shadow behind a fallen trunk. I looked towards the moon to see if I could figure out what was casting the shadow when I saw a large red eye appear, then another. The only artificial light was from the dome light of the car. The full moon was to my left and I was facing west. I remember looking over my left shoulder up at the moon to see what could be casting the shadow after looking over my right shoulder at the figure. Between the full moon and the snow on the ground, visibility was really good. As I was looking at the eyes, the first thought that came to me was that I was looking at two reflectors that had been nailed to the tree trunk. The eyes blinked and then I called for my friend to come and take a look. I pointed towards the shadow as my friend was getting out. About that time, the shadow slid off the bank down towards the riverbed. It sounded like something as big as an icebox had been rolled into the river. We watched as a tall, upright animal ran in a zigzag pattern from sandbar to sandbar towards the west. We just stood there with our jaws hanging open. We decided not to tell anyone about what had happened. A short time later, an incident occurred west of where I had my encounter. The local news labeled that incident as El Reno Chicken Man. The location was on the south bank of the North Canadian River, on the west side of the old Highway 81 bridge. This one takes place in May of 1992. We're heading to Umatilla County, Oregon, and the nearest town is Walla Walla. First of all, I have kept this to myself for many years for fear that people would say we were nuts. It was early summer, late spring. My brother and I were test driving a new Toyota pickup. I guess it would be southeast of Mill Creek watershed, near the Wash, the Oregon border. We had just crossed Mill Creek and passed the watershed entrance about a mile or so up the hill. The road was gravel and on one side was a steep embankment down into the gorge, and the other went straight up. We had to stop to take a leak on the side of the road. As I stand there, I looked across the gorge. It was approximately 100 yards. And there, on an old tree stump, was this thing, just standing there motionless, looking at us. It was about 2:30 or so in the afternoon, clear sunny day, about 75 degrees. I quickly turned to my brother who was standing at the other end of the truck and told him to look up on the hill. We both stood there looking at this thing look at us for a good 5 minutes or so. Then, as if it were never there, it turned and disappeared into the trees. It looked like a large, hairy man, kind of brownish with dark streaks and patches on its shoulders and hips and legs. It moved so quickly. It was there 1 second, gone the next. I don't recall any significant smells, but it was big, whatever it was. We could not get to the area where it was standing due to the terrain, so we could not see if there were any tracks. But if they're out there, that area above Walla Walla is where they are. This one takes place in the fall of 2022. We're headed to Forest County, Wisconsin, and the area is called Northwoods. I recently moved to Wisconsin and wanted to explore the backcountry 2 falls ago, so I took a trip from the south of Superior, mostly off-road and on fire roads and whatnot. On my second night, I was in the Northwoods and it was getting late. So I was on a back road in heavy, heavy forest, and I decided to find a spot to sleep in my truck. I went down a dirt road, probably 2 miles or so down the road. At this point, it was very dark, roughly 8 p.m., and absolutely no one for miles. I found a trail in the forest and drove about 100 feet into the woods and parked, completely concealed from the dirt road I was just on. I got out to assess the area, but I couldn't see anything as it was completely dark. I got back into the truck and set up for the night. About an hour into watching a movie on my phone, I heard a sound that sounded like a woman screaming, and my dog heard it too. I grabbed my pistol and turned on all my lights and opened the door to see what it was. Mind you, absolutely no one knew that I was there, and it was far from civilization. I didn't see anyone or hear anyone, so I ducked back into my truck. I was a little freaked out, but I figured it was wildlife. I don't know. I rationalized it. About an hour later, I was falling asleep and I felt my truck move as if someone pushed on it. Again, my dog woke up too, so I knew that it wasn't my imagination. I did not turn on any lights or make a sound, but my dog seemed uneasy. I told myself that if I heard anything else, I would get out of Dodge. Well, I ended up falling asleep, and around midnight, I woke up to my dog growling, and it happened again. I put on my boots and I hopped into the driver's seat and got out of there. As I was driving out, I went around a corner on the dirt road, and I'm not sure if it was my imagination or what, but I swear I saw a tall, skinny thing running off the road as I came around a corner. It took about 30 minutes to get down the road because I continued down the original dirt road and I did not go back the way that I came. By this point, it was raining pretty hard and I did not feel comfortable being anywhere in the dark. I drove an hour and finally found a gas station and ended up staying there the night. I have never been so scared in my life, and it takes a lot to get me feeling that way. I don't know what it was, but I know it was not human, whatever was out there. I know that much. This one takes place in 2009. We're going to Frontenac County, Ontario, and it's about an hour and a half southwest of Ottawa. I was cutting a fallen tree with my chainsaw to clear it from a trail back in 2009, so that I can continue down the trail that adjoins the passage to many hunting camps an hour and a half southwest of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. I ran out of fuel, and I was refueling the chainsaw. When I hear to the left of me the tops of the vegetation, leaves and brush rustling as something was passing through it, and I heard a huge thump, making the ground shake under my knees, and an enormous exhale when it landed on the left side of my lifted Suzuki Sidekick. I was refueling beside the front passenger tire, and since already at ground level on my knees, I immediately looked under the Sidekick expecting to see a black bear's leg, since many are in the area, but I saw nothing at all. I was there all alone with no weapons to defend myself other than my noisy chainsaw. Well, you all know how short these tiny Suzukis are. They're 12 to 13 feet long, so I scurried the fuel and oil cap on the saw, and I fired it immediately, turning around and revved the engine to scare off what I knew was present but I couldn't see. I said in my head, "Cupid, not stupid. I effing knew something is there. Can't fool me," while revving the engine, looking high and low all around the vehicle. I was baffled, to say the least. I walked around the front of the Sidekick with a saw to look down the driver's side to try and find what I knew was there, but to no avail. I was starting to feel dizzy-like, the kind of dizzy when you're drunk as hell after pounding back 20 ounces of whiskey within an hour and a half. I was totally messed up with a splitting headache and sick to my stomach. No, I was not drunk, not even a lick since it was morning. I only drink with friends and mostly late in the afternoon, so to pace myself for a long night. Anyway, since I felt so messed up and I felt what I couldn't see or come to the conclusion that anything was there as a threat, I finally reluctantly decided it was safe enough to shut the saw down and listen. Total silence, but no fear. Strange. I looked at the back of the Sidekick from the passenger side downhill on the trail, and I noticed that my vision was blurry, when it was fine every other direction I looked, but it was still blurry to the back of the Sidekick looking down the trail. I just couldn't figure it out. I took off my glasses and put them on the hood, then I scanned again, but still blurry to the back of the Sidekick. My analytical side came out, and I was now focusing intently downhill on the trail, trying to rationalize the blurry image distortion you can get off the road or the hood of a car on a super hot day. Then I said, "Okay, where's the heat source coming from? A rock? Nope." And the trail had a big canopy of trees over it with patches of sun touching the grassy trail. So a big negatory on that one. What the F? It was blurry from the ground behind the Sidekick all the way up to the lower tree canopy line of sight. I started feeling worse and I decided to sit in the passenger seat until I felt a little less dizzy. I decided once I feel better that I should continue cutting the fallen tree and once cleared, continue on my way. It was when I started watching Steve's channel 3 years ago that I realized after hearing an account after account that I actually knew what I experienced that day. The effing thing was standing only 5 feet away from me without the slightest sound, since standing at the passenger door multiple times, which is only 5 feet from the door handle to the bumper on that thing. The damn thing could have reached out and touched me from there, without even taking a step. Hearing from the people that when you are dizzy, it is because of their power over you to soften you up, so to keep them safe from you. I would do that too if I had the power to keep a chainsaw-wielding Canuck crazy man from getting me all cut up just because I was curious too. It blew my mind how close I was to being in grave danger if I had gotten too close with that chainsaw that day. I've had multiple experiences in that hunting camp area, including multiple lights in the sky in a perfectly symmetrical line, equally spaced, totaling about 12 to 13 white solid lights. I knew this was no aircraft from our planet since having an aviation background, I knew it was required by law to have flashing navigational lights, not all solid lights. If you want more, I got way more from that area and from behind my house of many acres, 300 kilometers from the hunt camp experiences. Well, that's a wrap. That last one, which took place in Ontario, took place pretty much in my backyard. And to me, that's a testament that we have a lot of encounters here in this province. And I know there are a lot of unheard encounter stories out there that still need to be heard. So why not just send them in right here to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. Now let's take a minute to acknowledge the current OC members. I would like to thank Elizabeth, Jim, Diana, and Teresa for the contribution and support as members of the OC community. Thank you guys so much, and it is truly enjoyable when we get together and chat. If you wish to learn more about our OC membership program, you can check it out right here at this video on the top left-hand corner of my screen. There you'll get a chance to learn all about the perks that you will receive once you become a member. Don't miss out on the adventure. Become a member now and join us today. Thank you all for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. Please hit that like button on your way out and smash the subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Oh, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all my latest uploads. Lastly, I wish you all have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you here next week on Ontario Cryptids.